Title: Army officer gets reprimand for secret camera in dressing room.
Right to jail, right away.
Rules are just rules. Somehow they apply in the military to some people, but don't apply to everybody. And people have their gripes and moans with this unfair and unjust system that seems that certain people get away with things while others get off scotch-free. And we're going to talk about that because this story gets creepy, and this is a community problem that the military does not want to bring up and will not say that there is a issue, but let's talk about it. Task and Purpose writes in the title: Army officer gets reprimand for secret camera in dressing room. And this is Army Lieutenant Colonel Jacob J. Swetland, which reached a plea agreement with prosecutors. A plea agreement. That's where we're at. That is not the only layer to this onion, because I'm like, this person was a respectable person that was telling other junior, soon-to-be junior officers of how to conduct themselves and be a person of dignity and respect in their community and amongst the military forces. But listen to this. An Army Lieutenant Colonel who trained future officers will receive a reprimand but serve no jail time for spying on a changing room with a hidden camera at a store that caters to teenagers and young adults. Army Lieutenant Colonel Jacob J. Swetland served as chair of the Reserve Officers Training Corps program at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo, California, when he was arrested for hiding a camera in a dressing room in a PacSun clothing store that was discovered by a teenage girl. So not only is he putting cameras in these stores that are meant for, I would say, preteens to like early teenage years to maybe 18, right? He's also talking and mentoring and a leader at a ROTC program where they do training on how to conduct themselves as an officer, which means they don't have to go to officer candidate school. They're not going to a military academy as well, because it's expected that this person would be in charge of making sure those trainings are conducted. Sounds kind of crazy, sounds kind of creepy. Military legal experts say the case is the latest example of the military justice system letting senior officers off with a slap on the wrist for a serious S-related offense. Though the store was off base, the local prosecutor stepped aside from the case in order to let the Army prosecute Swetland. A spokesperson for the district attorney's office called the offenses, quotations, outrageous and indefensible invasion of privacy. It does not take a legal expert to tell you that this justice system is out there and it is outdated, and it is not something that the general public, which pays for military service in order for them to be protected, is not meeting the demands and requirements of what's expected of what is the message that's put out by the military. The military is supposed to be a sacred organization that is out there that has dignity, respect, and carries traditions with it that are on the good and right side of history. However, things like this continue to be the case, and I've even covered things where a chief petty officer was in situations like this trying to meet up with somebody, and YouTube took down that video. But I am here trying to still get this information out because there needs to be accountability. There has to be. A military judge sentenced Swetland to be reprimanded at January 22nd special court-martial at Fort Knox, Kentucky, as a part of a plea agreement with prosecutors, said Ian Ives, a spokesman of U.S. Army Cadet Command. Swetland pleaded guilty to one specification of indecent visual recording and one specification of conduct unbecoming an officer under Articles 120 Charlie and 133 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Ives told Task and Purpose. That is because when you're a part of the military, you can be charged and held accountable in two different systems, one in the civilian side, one under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And from what they're saying here, the local population, which has more experience, more knowledge, probably better research of handling topics like this and prosecuting people in this regard, probably should have handled this case, in my opinion. When I look at that, I'm like, when I look at the military, we've seen how many issues where things have been under the rug, mishandled, just like this, where that continues to be the case. On top of that, I don't see him having to report as an offender anywhere from these types of issues. I don't know if that would be required from the Uniform Code of Military Justice, but I'm like, this person is getting off scotch-free. I will give you a perfect example. This person is getting a piece of paper for filming people. However, I am telling you factually, it happens on a weekly basis in the Marine Corps. If somebody that is 18 to 20 years old drinks in the barracks by themselves and they got caught, they're going to get issued non-judicial punishment of 14 days of restriction, administrative paperwork, could be busted down a rank, other things like that, for a minor infraction of drinking under the age of 21. But this person is able to get out without having any effect on their career, not having any issues with reporting themselves to any database or anything like that, and gets to continue on getting their retirement. I'm just like, whoa, where is the accountability? I would agree most Americans would say, let the 18 to 20-year-olds drink. They're giving themselves up for the fighting of this country. But if we're looking at this guy that, yes, he's had years of tenure, I'm going to sit there and still say, we should probably have some better boundaries. They say a military judge often has a range of punishments available in a guilty plea, I've said. The accused has the right to submit matters in extenuation and mitigation to the military judge during a pre-sentencing hearing. After considering all the evidence presented by the government and defense, the military judge sentenced Lieutenant Colonel Swetland to be reprimanded. So I understand there are ranges with this, but I have to also say this wasn't just filming, got caught, whatever else. Like, okay, he fessed up to it maybe right when he got caught. No, that's not what happened, because I'm making a video about this to where you're like, there are more charges that you see he was not charged with from what they're talking about. They say in September 2022, a teenage girl found a small device with a camera inside a dressing room at a PacSun clothing store in Pismo Beach, California. It says Swetland was arrested 2 days later when he went to the store to retrieve the device. He initially ran from police before being apprehended. And it does make me think, what were the conversations with local authorities that were covering this? And then on top of that, what was the exchange or agreement of like, hey, we'll take it over here. We'll handle it over here. That's not what happens with DUIs all the time in the military. They get tried in a civilian court, right, where that happens, but then they also deal with repercussions from the Uniform Code of Military Justice and even possibly the UCMJ at a court-martial level if they wanted to appeal that, where that would not be okay. But this is. Again, a double standard across the board, and we're seeing it all the time. Upon notification of Lieutenant Colonel Swetland's arrest, U.S. Army Cadet Command removed him from his Professor of Military Science position at the California Polytechnic State University. I've said he is currently assigned to the 8th Brigade of U.S. Army Cadet Command and is serving in an administrative role away from cadets. I don't think the guy should serve in any role. I would agree that if you talk to anybody with a great or normal, even normal moral compass that's in the military or even outside the military, they'd say, probably should not even be in the military. Probably doesn't represent this. And that's why I'm like, why is there not a force to be like, we're getting him out, he's going to be done, that's it. End of service. Like when we sign up for the military, we sign up for these extra duties, obligations, responsibilities that I'm like, I think a lot of people are being contended with, like, should they get credit that they've served over 20 years and say they still get their retirement? Or should there be some ramifications or we draw back some of those benefits at least and say, you mess up, you still get some of that, but you don't get all of it. Maybe at a different rank per se. And I'm pissed off just like everybody else right now about this, because I'm like, there has to be a point where someone says it stops here, the buck stops here. And for some reason, we have so many notches in our belt that just say, bam, 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 we are still continuing the culture, and that has not changed. I would love to see if Congress or some kind of legislation should be out there, something to reform this, because we are just not seeing the results that we'd like to see for people that are committing true serious offenses. And I hope that the days are numbered for this person to be out of the service, because I don't believe they represent what the military actually embodies and what it should be about. Those are just my opinion. The conversation continues with you guys down in the comments below to try and discuss this and voice your opinion for if people do watch this, see this, and things like that, because I think that is important as well. As always, if you guys like what I cover here on the channel, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.